Hello, I am Julia Bushkova, and today I'm going to look at the Paganini Caprice No. 21. And with me today is my student Marlon Barrios, who is going to perform for us, and whose lesson it is going actually to be. So what I would like to do first is that you would play the Caprice. I know Marlon just only started it, so I know it is very fresh. We haven't worked on it yet.
Yeah, not too much.
And we'll see how it goes, and then we'll proceed with the lesson. Well, very well done. For the first lesson, excellent, actually. So, as I can see, you are suddenly performing. I ask you to perform. Usually we don't do it in first lessons. We don't perform the whole thing. But today it was a good idea for everybody to get a sense of the whole Caprice. And of course, it's a lot of pressure on you. And so I can tell that there's some points you were using, not the bowings that you wanted to use, but you did the right thing. You were coming out of that and just keep playing. That's what we always want to do. So that was good. Staccato, in general, you have very strong staccato. And the difficulty of the staccato part here, of course, is not to get too fast or knowing when to pull back, but we'll get to it when we get to the staccato part. Okay, so as I said before, the goal of the video first is to kind of bring people in, everybody who is trying to or starting to play it or playing it. and address important musical issues and then as well technical issues. So musical issues with Marlon is easy to address because first of all he has a lot of his own input. He has his very, I think, thought through or felt through ideas about phrasing here and there. But for many people that's not the case, and so I want to ask you, when you first started this caprice, what did you do at the beginning? How, well, you of course you heard it many times, but then you're playing it, it's a bit different. What did you do first?
I think for the first time I took the score and tried to think of sort of a bel canto and type of style of melody. Just looking at the caprice itself, it's kind of like a small opera type of thing.
Yeah,
it's very virtuosic, and so I tried just to get into that state of mind for this caprice firstly. So yeah, that was my process.
Okay, so that's what we state of mind. What did you do physically then?
So just try to play the piece and just experiment with different types of phrasing. With the I think there is this very natural form.
Yeah, the gesture.
Right. So yes, I kind of try to find the natural gesture on it. So. That's
very good. So what I would propose for somebody who really first starts, we don't know the level, technical level. If the technical level of the person who starts, is really high, you played a lot of other caprices, you played a lot of virtuosic works, fine. You can start like it is written in the sixths. The slow parts are written in the sixth, of course, then the staccato is obviously different. But what I would recommend actually to anybody to do, to experience that bel canto, to experience this phrasing in the easy form, is to first time just play the upper voice without any double stops. So just for then you're not distracted by any technical issues, like for instance intonation, or fingers are together or apart, or I have to start on two strings right away, right? Which is sometimes it's hard after the first you have that nice sound and the end of it, and then you have to put the bow here down, and sometimes that's hard. So with this, you don't have that distraction, and you just keep going. You see, as you said, the gestures, how you're going to build later on as well. But before I even go to building, so first we'll look at the form. So what is the form of this caprice? How would you call the form?
I would say A, B, maybe.
A, B. Yeah, so it's a binary form, right?
Binary
so
form.
the long first A form, which consists of four sections really as we see them, right? As we work on them, four sections. First on lower strings, then the same thing on upper strings, right? And then it repeats, but not quite, right? So it's a little variation. So this A1, let's put it this way, right? And then we go to B, which is of course all running. Okay, so knowing that, we usually go immediately and start playing. I would say that first we need to compare what happens in the A part. So first we have this one, that when you start, and the second one. What's the difference between the first one and the second one? Could you play me the beginning of the A2? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. A2.
Get that other little hair here. Yeah, so the A2 is the one that starts, things are changing. So which is when variation comes, I would call that A2.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. No. Okay.
Exactly. So what is the biggest difference here in the first one?
It's a change of harmony, I would say.
Exactly. So it gets more intense or less intense?
Definitely more intense.
Exactly. So again, this is very important for us to start building our approach, what to do with this. So what I heard you do right now, even though you just told me it was more intense, when you get to that part, in how I heard you play, I heard that you were more open, more out there, more sound, more bravado, almost kind of, good one. In here, when you first was playing the first one, and then when you got here, you suddenly got much quieter and much more intimate, and therefore it didn't quite go with what the composer in this case intended. You see what I mean? I also think that, I know you're a very warm performer. You have a lot of, intimate feeling kind of in music, which is very good, and your sound reflects it. So when you start, I think, again, for you, it's very important to not start too inward or too intimate in terms of your sound on G and D string. G and D in general have completely different character as strings. They have different character than A and E. And every string of ours, by the way, has a character. So voice-wise, what is this? What voice sings when we are on
the
G?
Bass.
Bass, or well, maybe even bass, exactly. Bass or baritone, right? So then I think that D string is more of a tenor, so basically we're kind of looking at the choir thing,
yeah,
right?
The SAT
with
before,
soprano, maybe even coloratura soprano here actually for us, the E string. And then this is like a lyrical soprano to me. It's not mezzo even, it's not yet the A string. So it's two sopranos, then tenor and baritone bass. I agree. So that's what. So then when we approach strings, we have to know how those voices, in a way, how they will sound in projection. And you know what I noticed? That whenever the baritones, when they sing very soft, it becomes almost close to a whisper. But it can be very beautiful, but it is not, it doesn't deliver the punch, you know what I mean? So especially when you go to this one, I would say this sound is not going to deliver what you want to deliver, you know what I mean? So in general, in here and particularly in this caprice, even though I can hear how you built it first starting kind of very gentle, very loving. It's amoroso, right? Amoroso, it sounds very loving. So yes, and great. And then you go and you open up on the A and E, but the sopranos, when they go into this register, they sometimes, they will project, of course, nicely, but they can sound almost shrill or almost like too forward, you know what I mean? So I would ask you to consider to rethink it and maybe start with more being the baritone, being the bass, what roles do they usually play? I mean, they're usually not the flighty ones. They're just very well established, very manly, I would say, doughty, brave, courageous. That's the man that is singing, or two men actually maybe, here, if the baritone and tenor both, right? Okay, so how about you will start again and you will make that sound. Again, I'm not sure though on recording, because we both have the microphones. I don't know if that came through or not. Yeah. But that kind of fluffy, a bit fuzzy tone, that will be in the whole actually. Where that sounds like this, or maybe it sounds perfectly fine on recording, but in the whole, in the reality of distance, it sounds a bit fuzzy, a bit unfocused, and loses the intent. Okay, so why don't you start? You don't need to play the first one. That's fine. There's the only thing is we want those things to be. I think your upper A tends to be a bit sharper than your lower A, but that's just us to hear the two A's intonation-wise. You don't need to play them. Just start the theme.
Okay.
That would be a little bit more carrying, not caring, but projecting. Okay, so what to do with that beginning when you need to put the bow on? First of all, the theme of that whole phrase, right? What tempo do you want in there? It's slow, but it's something that you can sing, right? So maybe before you start, actually you want to to have this singing, because I think you start slower than you later become, and that's harder. And maybe for that you go so far to the tip, and we don't want to be there. It's harder. So if you put the thank you here, and then you start right where it's comfortable to start, or like right above the middle slightly, but not too far. Try it. And if you know that you go with more sound right away, right? So you also can just well, maybe the word press now it's exiled and from our vocabulary. We can't say press anymore. But be on two strings with assurance, not like, okay. You know, and just land it, and then went, okay? One more time, immediately crescendo. So to think mezzo forte, you will play in mezzo forte. And then you will save the bow. So you're going So how do we save the bow? Contact point closer to the bridge, right? If you want to be with sound and yet save the bow, what do? We move the contact point to the bridge. So if you start here, if you know that you will be starting not exactly maybe parallel to the here, but just a little bit at that angle, that is usually considered to be wrong. Here it actually might work very well for you, or for anybody. So you will start, you see it moves me then here. And then of course immediately I will straighten up the bow. It gives then room to do something at the end, okay?
Okay.
Start one more time. That was much better. Now, what I did like about your first time performance is that you had in this other, fluffy character, let's put it this way, but the endings of your notes were completely released. I like that. So again, this is a technical matter right now issue, is with more sound and more bow saving, which Marlon will just practice more. So we hear. So it's really. That part finishes, and that was very nice when you performed. Right now, yeah, it's a bit abrupt. Okay, so that is good. Now, in the same thing, then what do we do on A&E? Can you show me the difference, how the character of the other strings will be, perhaps? So let's make them a little less intense then, so that was what more intense actually, right? And then you hear, what if they are, two girls in summer dresses,
okay,
with a little wind?
Right.
Yeah, but the same thing about bow saving and finishing the long note.
Okay.
Better. I really like that. I think it will work. But except that I know that's a manuscript bowings or text bowings, and well, we're not going to discuss right now manuscript and or text, okay? But it's as a virtuosic piece, it's romantic music. We do change bowings, and we sometimes change whatever composer even wrote in terms of dynamics, and this composer, Paganini, didn't write any dynamics, so that's good. So we can do whatever we like. So in here, because it is thinner in a good way, it is lighter in a good way, I would do actually here more slurs. So, like you played. Here I would do. Then again, slur. It's easier that way as well as it is more fitting with the character.
Okay.
Okay, and the first time when you actually, I think you did these bowings, maybe there you could unslur them if you like. You could keep them both the same and then do different bowings, of course, in the second, in what I would call A1, in the variations, you know. So, but I think it will work better. Okay, so then after this, what else we look for? Okay, so now let's go to the variation, to more intense thing. Okay, so you start that one, please. Let's decide what bowings you're going to use there.
Okay.
The bowings need to work out for you to be here and down bow. So to proceed with that, right? So let's figure out how you can be there on the down bow. Either you slur something in or you unslur one of them and do two differently. So I think you coming here. That's one option. That's one option. There are a couple more, but anyway, so see, maybe this one will work for you. It's opposite, so you want to come on up bow on the 3.
So you do. I did something else, which I now already cannot remember. So I remember that you did. I think I did this. Yeah, it's opposite to what you want to do. It's opposite to the phrase. Up to the phrase we want to do correctly. That, but unfortunately it doesn't allow us to continue. So here that has to be an up bow. But in terms of phrase, you still want to do ta-ya-ra-ram, so more emphasis on that up bow. Or another is to do ta-ta-ra-ram, and I would like not to break the slur personally. I wouldn't break the slur. Okay, so, or other option is to do on slur or slur something earlier on. You know, when I was playing this, I believe I was playing that, it was long ago. I was coming backwards to what you're coming. Not saying it's good or bad, it's just that's the way it was. You know, I was coming on that one on a bow. This is another variant to do. You know, whichever way. Main thing is that A and C sharp have to be on down bow, because after that you have the big. By the way, this one of those things I remember in the original of Paganini's text, for instance. I think it's in the beginning. I think they're slurred on one big slur, right? Yeah.
But I agree with you. I would also not want to do them on one big slur, especially on the lower strings. Right? Maybe on the upper strings you could entertain this idea. Can you show up upper strings when? Right, and then on one bow.
Okay.
If you were to do them the way it is in the text, I think. Okay. That's the way it's in the Urtext editions right now. I personally don't care much for it because I think it's too much work to do it, and the expression is what. So the main thing, as far as I'm concerned, is to always deliver the sense of the phrase, the sense of the sentence you're playing, and not exactly which way the bow goes. It needs to be comfortable. It needs to make sense physically, but the delivery of the phrase really doesn't matter. So yes, I agree. I also would do them ta-dum, pa-dum, pa-dum, but move with as if it is on the slur, under the big slur. Okay, what else? Obvious difficulty that we are, the elephant in the room is our intonation and our shifting and all that beautiful stuff. Yeah. So I noticed that, I think you're like, pa, 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 pa. I like these bowings. Obviously, it's harder when you start and you climb up there. You were more successful on these upper ones, identical notes, and it's harder there. Why do you feel it's harder on those strings?
Since they're thick and for me it's more difficult to just like produce the sound that I want, and it's not clear enough, so I can't hear like the actual notes.
Correct. Yeah. And of course, so thickness of the string is a matter, and also the fact that we have to be here more, so to allow our fingers to press better. It's true. So that's probably really the only reason, the angle of our hand. So yes, it does take a little bit more work in here. So what you could do, I don't know if you practice that way or not, so to do, so when you play with the bow, only upper note, and meanwhile you do both. You can actually even do it without. Why don't we try it? Play without double stops. Just one. You do 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 3, 3. Correct? Okay. Let's just do it without double stop. Without double stop. Just only 2. Yeah, and then this finger slides across the string. Right, it will end up there. We don't need to do it because we will slide most likely in a roundabout way, so that nobody hears we cross the string. Okay, so yeah, and one more time, the same thing. Yeah, and you see now, right now, when you are not worried about this, I mean, it does sound clear, right? It's easier just on D. So in terms of bow, you might want to be more a little bit on D as well. Let's try it this way. Now let's play with both, but listen only to the upper note and see if the bow is slightly more on D string, if it helps.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you just need to practice that, obviously. Okay, let's do only the G string. Okay, so obviously right now, yes, that will be helpful. So I would recommend to do only one finger without double stop at first, and then the other on a lower string without double stop at first, but the finger that is involved. And then both while playing the upper voice and then while playing the bottom voice. And deciding, violins are different, strings are different, people use different gauges of the string, all of that comes into play here. But yeah, the truth of the matter is that the higher you go, the more you need to depress because the distance becomes bigger. So yes, you need to be able to depress strings here, and when you move, of course, you let them, right now, is your violin also sticky?
Yeah, a little bit.
Mine
is so
sticky here. Yeah. You can play it. Oh,
it happens.
Wonderful sound, yeah, of course. Yeah, well, normally speaking, we will just immediately clean it a little bit, but right now we're here, we can't do it. But I would recommend, by the way, yes, washing your hands off and cleaning a bit your fingerboard because it gets sticky, it's harder to move. Anyway, so yes, we lighten the fingers when we move, and then we press them back again, and then you experiment on which string you might be a little bit more, maybe it could be D. Maybe it could be G. You have to see. Okay, on A and E, we don't have that problem at all, and that was much easier. Okay, so then what else? Intonation. What do we do with intonation? Well, okay, first of all, we need to hear so the sixths are always very agreeable, right? Agreeable intervals. And yours pretty much are. I think it's just a matter that it's, it's a little baby of the Caprice yet in your hands. You're just starting it, basically. So thinking of, especially it's easier to hear on those ones. I have the whole video on overtones here. hear that A, then that overtone, the key actually. So when that note, that imaginary overtone note, starts really sounding, you know that you're very clean. And then if you get away from the overtone and get back to just listening to your sixth, you realize how a consonant, it is a consonant completely, right? So listening to that more, and specific notes, the key notes, that's when we really notice it. Vibrato will take it off, of course, of the perfect sound. Even if you have it, then it's a wave, then of course it disturbs the overtone, fine. But general placement of the fingers have to be there. What do we know about the sixth in general, like the major sixth? How do we put fingers for the major sixth? You have E, for instance, and C sharp. Will you just put it in the regular places, or regular places meaning if you play just E, C sharp? Or will you adjust something for the sixth to sound as a consonant?
I think I would adjust a little bit, make the hand a little bit closer to the...
Closer, exactly. The fingers will become a little closer, because yes, if we do very clean E and then clean C sharp that leads to the D, that is going to be out of tune. So over here, the waves are very, very fast, and they are fighting. I call them fighting. So, but for that, we know that we always have to reduce it, lower it a bit, right? Okay, so what do we do for the other ones, the ones that are... Here we want them closer together when we play the separate notes, and when we play together, we will make them what?
A little bit farther
apart. A little bit apart. And we find again that sound in the background, lower voice overtone, that it doesn't fight with our double stop, and then it's clean. And just basically memorizing these things. Other than that, I think you're doing good fingerings for most of the time. They work. So sometimes you do the virtuosic sixths, right? When you do 4-3, 4-3, and then 1-2, and that's how we usually do sixths in the faster tempo. Sometimes we do them as they come, it's like that. So that's a regular way, and that will be the virtuosic way. Okay, so you see what fits your hand, what sounds the best, and that's the ones you choose. There are several editions out there in the market, and your edition that you used first was what, just an urtext?
Yeah, it was an urtext, verlag.
Okay, was there any suggestions for fingerings or not really?
No, it was just...
Nothing.
Yeah. Actually, no, it was Barenreiter.
Barenreiter. I see. Okay, so what I would suggest that if you get an urtext edition, wonderful, now every day, nowadays, everybody gets an urtext, but look for the one that has well thought through fingerings, and that probably will be Galamian in this country. I'm not saying take everything from Galamian. For instance, you're not doing exactly Galamian version when you play those ta 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 ta. That is the version that actually is, by the way, you read my Russian mind, because that's what we use in a Russian edition. It was you play 4, and then you change finger to 2, 3. And that one is again, so it's 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. In Galamian, I think he is switching earlier, and the bowings also switch earlier, so on. But still, if you don't have anything and you don't have access to any other editions, the Galamian is a good, solid, I would say, solid edition with some good suggestions. Okay, staccato. Now, staccato part. You have very good staccato. Can you possibly control it to be a slightly slower version?
We try.
Can you start it? Okay, so now that is, yeah, but when you use of course my version will be much slower, so I don't really want to show you because we obviously we talked about this in the staccato video, so that with age that type of staccato slows down slightly because you're using kind of a hybrid of with a tight arm staccato, a little bit of something and tight arm. So yeah, that slows down. So mine would be slower, but could you use a little bit more bow on each bite right now? Do it one more time and think more sound in this in this tempo. By the way, do you see that suddenly it didn't work as well? But I would maybe not as loud. But kind of going to this. Why? There are two reasons. First of all, it will be more audible in the whole. Okay. Second is when you get to ta 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 ta. Do you feel that? It's so fast by that time. And yes, it says presto, but ta 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 ta. It's already presto. No matter what tempo you're playing out of the two, both are presto. First was probably prestissimo. So go now to the last note here, the A. Aim this and then stop on that A. Don't play what after that A.
Okay.
Okay, one more time.
Sorry, I have to try one more time.
Okay. That's all right. So here we're, I mean, actually this is kind of good to show because well, you're worried about how you will start staccato, and you're in staccato mode here. What if you play the same thing in legato? That's how we really practice this for intonation and for comfort. Go to legato in the exactly the same tempo, tam, tar, and very small bow like you will use for staccato, okay?
Okay.
Good. Exactly. So that is the model of what you want to do now with staccato. See how relaxed? It's much more relaxed right now. Of course, you don't have any tension here that you use in staccato, obviously, but try to get the same thing with staccato now. Exactly. So to separate the little portions of that, I'm sure you probably do it in practice, but maybe not so, how should I say, planned. It's possible that when we practice, we just stop whenever we hear something wrong, we just stop in there. But if you plan this, like I stop only on that A. Why to stop on that A? Because after this, you're already starting something new from the same A. Again, you could stop on that A, of course. Also, first do that, then add the passage. And now let's start with that upper A, add the passage, and then tam, and then start tam, and then stop.
With the scully.
Yeah, let's go just in order, and then your passage from that A. Okay, and now let's look at that passage actually. So the same tempo, legato.
Okay.
The passage up from. All right, so now we hear that there's stuff in the left hand. What do you hear that sticks out the most intonation-wise?
G sharp is not good.
Exactly. So tam, fourth finger, right? Oh, a little bit slower. And then continue. So whenever you stumble upon this, then I would clean it up. And you have good ear, so you hear exactly what needs to be cleaned up a little bit faster, but still only in legato. Have you done a lot of legato here?
I've tried a little bit, but I should do more, but yeah.
It's legato and then staccato, legato, staccato. Not the whole thing legato and then in staccato, but one passage at a time. That's also very important. Okay, so then you go to ta-ra-ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-tam. Let's do it with that one. And again, in a more relaxed pace.
Still legato? Or
well, actually, let's do it legato.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's clear there's still a lot to do in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one more time, a little slower so that you can find the comfortable places for the left hand. I heard like what, 3-4 notes out of tune. But beginning was much better. So I'm sure you heard the same notes. If you know which notes you're doing, you go just to that little portion, little passage, and you figure out how to more comfortably put the fingers. So in here, yes, the hand has to be comfortable for all fingers to manipulate. We don't move the hand in between them. It's too high up. Okay? All right. Okay, so obviously the big part of this staccato part, if a person has staccato like Marlon does, then it's primarily intonation and string crossings, really. If the person has problem with staccato, or staccato is not that fast, which by the way also can be played if staccato is not that fast, okay, it will be like poco presto. It can be done in slower tempo than yours. But your staccato is good, so we can go to this tempo. However, yes, your goal will be to slow it down to allow for your fingers to catch up. And here also for the bow, you know, to have that arc and to have your elbow helping you is very important, okay? So sometimes, well, I mean, it was a little bit all spastic because it's the first time and you just played through. Yeah. Okay, it's understandable. Okay, so then next, that is difficult portion. So in the presto part, I would actually recommend to just play it once or twice. If your staccato is good and passages are okay, go to those portions, what we just did. 3 and 5. So legato and 5 staccato, first on legato and fix the string crossings and the left hand intonation. Now, next portion is also very unpleasant, is when you also continue da-ra-ra-da-da-ra-ra-da, right? Can you start that section? And start it in a comfortable tempo. Not too slow, but comfortable. That's true. So, and here we have the version that is quite a bit slower than your tempo was. And if it is that slow, then you can do that low on the bow. Again, depends, of course, on how light your bow is. That is important. If the bow is not too light and you're playing that portion, I would definitely recommend to hold it higher. You know, I know that we usually just go with whatever we were taught in the beginning, and I myself hold the bow there by the frog, that is. My thumb is completely by the frog. Well, it is, if anybody wants to know where my thumb exactly is, you can go to my videos on the right hand, like the beginner videos for the right hand. And so you will see where I'm placing there. But it's also very possible, and it's actually a good idea sometimes, to move to the thumb grip. So a little towards Baroque hold, and you played Baroque violin, so you know. Not, of course, not in there, no, but just a little bit out. So that might help with the weight. Still, I would probably, whichever you do, in faster tempo, you don't want to be as close to the frog, you know, on that. So let's try it a little bit on a faster tempo in your. Okay, so don't play too many of them. I played myself different bowings. No, bowings the same, different fingerings. So in Russian edition, we have fingerings this way. Both are fine in terms of what the outcome might be. It's fine. I'm just more used to it, and it's the same. It just, the bow goes the same way. Can you try that maybe? Mm-hmm.
Like the way you just did.
Yeah, so it's so the first 4 then have the same exactly shape for the bow on the same strings. So there will be no change of position. Second position. Then change position. And then actually you go to what you have played. Let's say that this, yeah. So do it again, and right now with a little bit more speed if you can, for the left hand kind of figures out. So let's do it on open strings. Actually, it's much easier. Let's just do it on open strings. Or you can put 2 notes in the instead of playing more notes, you just do on this and you do the bowing. So that would be the bowing. Okay, can you demonstrate? Yeah, even without moving, just basically figuring out what to do here. So what really works better in faster tempo and with heavier bows, first of all, make sure that your elbow is higher. You are a lower elbow person, I am a lower elbow person, you know, we tend to do this, it's not helpful. It needs to be high, like on G level, right? Okay. And then this moves the bow, which means our forearm slightly moves the bow, and this connects the strings. Okay. Very tiny movement. Try this. Okay, so go less onto the G and close the strings. G to D. Yeah, exactly. And lighter also. Allow the bow. Is your bow really heavy?
It's a little.
Okay, so let's move it higher up a little bit. Yeah. Saying, you know, sometimes this is, and again, this is not going to alter, by the way, if of course, if you're comfortable doing this, but it's not going to alter how you play the rest of it, because we rarely go to the metal. Anyway, when I grew up in the Soviet Union, we were told to always go right to the metal, but never touch the metal. Oh, thank goodness those days were gone and are gone. Nobody can tell me, go there, but don't touch it. It's not important to go there. It's really, especially on heavier bows. So, but it gives you actually more bow to use. Then you can start higher up in the bow, and it will be still comfortable, and you know, not. Yeah, it's just more comfortable. Okay. Many people have switched. I know they just moved a little bit onto the thumb grip. Yes. I haven't yet myself, but I would.
Well.
Anyway, so that will be helpful. So elbow on the level. And lighter sound, and then continuing the same thing here, not rushing to connect parts. Okay. So just like you have tam, yeah, you can modify the tempo slightly there. Mm-hmm. And when you start that one, instead of going like this forward, like this is a technical issue I have to conquer, you can go with, oh, I will play dolce. Okay. How about you play with your fingerings right now? Play with your fingers, but with that feeling. In dolce. Yeah, try not to bounce so much, you know. So. The dotted last note is just lighter. Okay. Don't need to take the bow off the string. Just return to the same place. And the whole thing takes very little bow. It's true.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And then musically here, there's a little sub-gestures inside, right? Mm-hmm. The dominance to resolution, another resolution. To know that and to show it, again, it breaks the monotony and the technicality of playing so many notes, one after another. Mechanical playing is always harder than musical playing. So if you start using it here, yeah, your goal will be to get to this tempo here and not faster, because the faster one doesn't work anyway. Mm-hmm. Not for you, not for anybody else. I heard many performances when people go in crazy tempo, you can't hear notes there. Okay, so that will be it. And then last but not least, well, for only for Marlon and people who have that kind of nice staccato, last passages. Do you want to try them to do just like on one bow? Okay. You know, go to the very last staccato? Yeah. So exactly. So it's written, and you play right, returning. Yeah. So play them all on one bow and see what happens. Yeah, except you want to play the upper note. Just play it. Listen. Okay. Yeah, okay, one more time. Not without effort, without trying to underscore it, just allowing it to be there. Well, you never played this. Play without the staccato. Yeah, and of course it won't be that much bow, right? Okay. see.
Similar?
Yeah, I see that. Your strings, again, you're a little bit too far away on the string. So if you're closer here.
Okay.
Exactly. And so if you put that on staccato and start, yeah, you have to start, somewhere that allows you to be in the upper part before you reach the E. You don't want to reach the E here. You want to reach it like somewhere in there.
Okay. One more time.
A little bit closer to the tip.
Okay.
Again. Exactly. Yeah, so with using bow a little bit and just fine-tuning how little is little, but a little bit more than you did before. This one is much better. Okay. I think you can do it, In my youth, that's what I did, and that's what my family did. It was our family caprice. So, all right. I think it wraps up. And the last chords.
Yeah.
Yeah, last chords. There is. You can actually kind of be nice and not.
So robotic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other issue we didn't address. We didn't address the issue of what to do with these passages in the first half. They or they either up you go or down bow. Yeah, it also would be actually that would be an issue needs to fit with your decision of the character. Mm-hmm. So what I heard when you played through is you played passage and then like E major passage you played and then there suddenly was that E that was like a horn suddenly. I don't think you intended this. I think you were just like, okay, I'm done with that one. Let's go to another one. Yeah, so just have them within your purview musically, how they will fit. Either they're on one bow with upper note on up, or you tom, pom. I would recommend not to do this at the end of those passages at all. So just finish in a nice flowing manner, okay? All right, so that is definitely it. We have covered a lot of ground today. It was a full lesson. Yes.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, for me, it's even better. So.
Yeah. Anyway, Marlon, thank you so much for being here, for agreeing to be on full display with something you have just started. It's a hard thing to do.
My pleasure.
It's a very courageous thing to do for Marlon. So, and here, I hope that has been helpful for all of you who watched. Please subscribe to this channel, like this if you like this, and then I will see you all later.